Baby, you go into these towns who've never seen a Negro lawyer.
Hey, boy!
You need to be careful.
NAACP.
Thurgood, you're going to Connecticut.
Joseph Spell, Negro servant, attached socialite in our own bedroom.
This case will show the world if a colored man can get a fair trial in the United States.
There's only 13 million Negroes depending on you.
Don't any of you have any confidence in me? I'd say you have enough confidence for us all.
It's Thurgood Marshall like you've never seen him before. The new movie Marshall chronicles a pivotal case in his career before he won the landmark Supreme Court case ending segregation, and long before he became the High Court's first African-American justice 50 years ago. Recently, I had a chance to talk to the actor portraying Marshall, the multi-talented Chadwick Boseman. What's interesting about Marshall, as opposed to some of the other work that you've done and some of the other biopics that we've all seen, is that it's not the story that people expect. You know, people would expect it to be, here's the entirety of his life, here's Brown versus Board. This is actually a courtroom drama. Did that intrigue you about the film?
Well, when I read the script, but the main thing about it was that I knew that you didn't have to know who Thurgood Marshall was in order to watch this movie.
Right.
And I think that's a great thing for an audience member to know that, like, I could come into this without any prior idea of who this man is and enjoy the movie, and later on have a greater appreciation for him, you know, knowing all of the stuff that he did. But you know, it's a Western. He's not just Thurgood Marshall. He is the Marshall coming into town to implement justice.
Yeah.
It's a whodunit. You know, it's a buddy cop movie in a way.
Yeah.
Even though they're not cops, but
Yeah.
it has the feeling of, you know, the guy who only works alone, because Thurgood Marshall was, at this particular time in the NAACP, he was the only attorney going around dealing with all of these cases, because that's what the budget allowed the NAACP to do.
Yeah.
So he only worked alone, and you're seeing the beginnings of him bringing other attorneys in to work on these cases with him in various places throughout the country. So Sam Friedman represents that. So, but it was all these various different types of movies.
Yeah.
It wasn't written like a biopic.
Yeah.
That made me want to do it.
And the other thing that's intriguing to me is I always am struck, as somebody who's a kind of a nerd and a history buff, is when people find stories that I didn't know and that we don't learn about in our history classes. And this is obviously young Thurgood Marshall. It's not Supreme Court Thurgood Marshall. And the case isn't in the South. So you're talking about them going to Connecticut. It's a familiar narrative, a black man accused of rape, you know, facing all that meant in that period. We're talking about the 1940s. But it's in the North. How does that change the storytelling when you're talking about a narrative that is going to make people uncomfortable because it's not about the typical Southerners versus African Americans? Yeah,
well, you can't hide from it in the same way. You know, if it was the tobacco chewing sheriff and, you know, the fat judge with the dog and all of that stuff, you would know exactly what that is, and you'd be like, I can separate myself from that, or that was a different time period. But because it's the North, it is very similar to the racism that we experience today, because it is hidden. It is masked by housing and masked by, you know, in this case, it's not just white-black racism. You know, Sam Friedman is experiencing the fact that he is not a part of the club as a Jewish American, and he's comfortable with that until he meets Thurgood Marshall. So you see how the North sort of hid its racism, and that's similar to what we experience today. It's different words. We live in a race-free society. Like we think just because we had a black president that all that's done now. People look at the advancements that African Americans have made, and they think all of that is in the past, and they're just witnessing, you know, some cream that came to the top, not you know, the countless neighborhoods that have basically desert food situations in schools that are still not up to par. And so all of that is, you know, why this movie rings true right now.
Yeah, and you've been very vocal, even in talking about the current president that we have, Donald Trump, and saying, listen, you know, this is part of the gig. Either take the criticism or don't be president. Do you feel that artists such as yourself are put in a position where, you know, people who like Donald Trump also like your movies? And do you find yourself in that sort of Michael Jordan position where you're saying, well, I don't necessarily want to offend that part of my audience? Or do you feel that it's your responsibility as an artist to communicate to that audience too?
Well, if you're offended, you're guilty. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't feel like I've said anything that will make an audience member be like, I'm not going to his movies. You know, I have a right to criticize the president. You know, like I'll criticize him right now. Like, in fact, you know, to say we would defend ourselves against North Korea, I understand that. I don't understand saying I will totally destroy this country. That's where it's not presidential.
I'd have to do one more little political question. You are an alumnus of Howard University. There was a protest against Jim Comey when he went down. You know, one might argue that, you know, Comey is trying to be a positive voice when it comes to things like race and policing. How hard is it for us, do you think, you know, as a young black man yourself, to have these conversations around race? Is it depressing to you that we still can't seem to have them in a comfortable way?
I don't even think about it that way. It's just, it's if I think about how, you know, much time has passed and things haven't changed, I can think of it in that perspective, but it's also a very young nation. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, as much as people are like, make America great again, you can always do better. I can always be a better actor. I can always be a better person. So America has never been as great as it should be. And so, you know, I don't feel like I'm tired of talking about it. If it's not done, it has to be done. It has to be fixed.
Lastly, to come back to Marshall, is there anything that doing this film taught you?
Well, every character I've ever played teaches me something. You know, I would say, for me, the greatest thing that I look at when I look at Thurgood Marshall is the comfortability of the comfortability that he had. You know, he was in Harlem. He was amongst some of the greatest artists of that time during a renaissance, and he chose to leave that comfortability and go around the nation and fight injustice. And that is, it's not just an admirable thing. It's like you look at who that person is and you say, well, where does that selflessness come from? And it's just an incredible thing. So it just puts a fire under you to make sure that, you know, that you do certain things a certain way and that things have meaning. Like, I don't want to just be doing films that don't have meaning or that push the envelope forward. You know, it's my desire to always be working on something that means something.
Yeah, well, Chadwick Boseman, thank you for being one of the great young actors of your generation.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that you took the time to do a film like this before Black Panther breaks the entire universe. Take time to continue on, because that's going to be off the chain. I had to add that in, but thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, Marshall opens in theaters on October 12th. Check it out. And coming up, more AM Joy.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.